Worst fan filter update ever. I discovered my wife's 17-year affair. My wife and I have been married for 17 years, though we don't have any children of our own. She went through a divorce before we met and has two daughters from that marriage, now 28 and 23, whom I helped raise before we tied the knot. Honestly, our relationship has mostly been smooth sailing, with only the occasional minor bumps along the way. One of the things I've always appreciated about us is our open communication. Whether we're venting about work, discussing personal or sexual issues, or simply sharing how we're feeling, the door is always open for an honest conversation. Some of my favorite moments are when we just sit on the couch together, talking about life, philosophy, or whatever happens to be on our minds. It's always felt like we've had a deep connection, not to mention a very satisfying and active sex life. We both take care of ourselves, staying in good shape and living a healthy lifestyle. I work in the medical field, and with the way things have been lately, I've been putting in a lot of overtime these past 5 months. Meanwhile, she's been working from home as a legal consultant for the same period. While the extra work and her being home all day have made things feel a little more distant at times, we make the most of our days off together and stay close. Last night, I swapped out the filter on the Dyson fan in our bedroom. When I went to reset the change filter alert in the app, I asked my wife if I could use her phone since mine was charging by the front door. As soon as I picked it up, I noticed she'd set up a pattern lock. It wasn't like her to do that, and for a moment, I felt like asking her about it. While I was scrolling through her apps to find the Dyson one, a Snapchat notification popped up. My stomach twisted into knots as I read the preview. "I'll bring the special toy." The words hit me like a brick. My brain understood exactly what I was seeing, but my mind froze, refusing to fully process it. I just sat there, staring blankly at the fan. After what must have been a few minutes of silence, she asked me what was wrong. I managed to pull myself together and mumbled something about checking the IP and router settings for the fan, trying to sound nonchalant. But I knew, deep down, I knew this had to be about her quarterly work trip coming up on Monday. She has these mandatory out-of-town meetings every few months, taking her 2 states away for 5 days at a time. I've been lurking on Reddit for years, reading countless stories that start like this. Never once did I imagine that I'd be the one sitting on my bedroom floor, numb, confused, and cold from the shock of it all. Somehow, I got through the night. I told myself to stay composed, but I couldn't let it go. I remembered she'd logged into her Facebook on my Chromebook the day before. Later that night, I called my supervisor, a real understanding person, and explained that I needed to take some emergency time off. She agreed without hesitation. I've been up all night going through her chats. She just left for the office, and I made sure her Google location history was turned on and Find My Phone was active before she walked out the door. The suspicion is eating me alive. I can barely stand to look at myself in the mirror. She doesn't know I saw the Snapchat notification, and part of me wishes I could unsee it, but I can't. After she left, I logged into Verizon's messaging system under her account. What I found made my stomach drop. There are over 15,000 messages between her and this guy, dating all the way back to February of last year. Texts, memes, flirty exchanges, and even explicit photos. But about 3 months ago, she stopped using the Verizon messaging app to contact him. She didn't stop texting him entirely, though. She switched to Snapchat, probably because it's more discreet. I've never been on social media in any form. I'm completely out of my depth here, but I quickly figured out that Snapchat doesn't require Facebook to log in, just an email and password. And she's used this Chromebook to access it. In fact, she was on it just 3 nights ago, lying in bed right next to me. While rubbing my back as I drifted off to sleep, she was messaging him, sexting him. It's a younger guy she works with. He's married and has 3 little kids. I've met him before, shook his damn hand. I feel like my entire body is hollow, but at the same time, I'm boiling with rage. I've been pacing through this house, the house I built for her with my own 2 hands, for hours, unable to calm down. I finally logged into her Snapchat. There it all was. Everything. Every message, every explicit photo, every filthy detail. I called my best friend. He's been through 3 divorces himself, don't even get me started on his judgment and partners. And he gave me the name of a ruthless lawyer. I'm planning to record and save everything. There are pictures of them having sex. I'd bet money that one of their phones has videos, too. I can't believe this is real. She's told him the most awful things about me. She's mocked my insecurities, shared personal things I trusted her with. And worst of all, she's told him she loves him. There's no sign they're making long-term plans together. So it seems like this is purely physical. Somehow, that almost makes it worse. She's throwing away everything we've built for what? A fling? She knows that cheating is an absolute deal-breaker for me. She knows that. I desperately wish this was just a nightmare I could wake up from. On the morning she leaves for her meetings, we have this usual routine. I drive her to the airport, we share a long goodbye, and I wish her a safe trip. But now, I can't even bring myself to think about going through those motions. My friend's advice has been direct. He says to print everything out and try to recover whatever I can from Snapchat. From what I've read, though, that's not possible unless I have her phone in hand. Right now, my plan is to meet with the lawyer today. I'm shelling out an insane amount just to get an emergency appointment, but I need to set the wheels in motion and figure out my next steps. A big part of me wants to book a flight and follow her to the hotel where she's staying to catch her in the act. Since I have access to her hotel bookings, I've already added myself as a contact. That means I can request a room key without her knowing. My idea is to fly out Monday afternoon, check into the hotel, and log into her messaging apps to watch everything unfold in real time. If I can get the divorce papers ready before then, I'd hand them to her myself. If not, I'll leave the printed evidence, 600 pages worth, along with my wedding ring in her room. Then, I'll sit at the hotel bar and wait for my phone to blow up. Once it does, I'll call her affair partner, AP, and tell him to meet me in the lobby. I'll let him know that a package containing all the evidence has already been sent certified mail to his home, addressed to his wife. And as I tell him this, I'll hit send on the Facebook message I've drafted for her. It feels petty. It feels weak. But I want her to feel the pain she's inflicted on me. I want them both to feel it. Right now, my rage is the only thing keeping me together. This morning, all I could manage was a peck on her cheek as she left. I couldn't even look her in the eye. I don't know how I'm going to get through the weekend, but I have to. So, here's my question. Is this spiteful, hate-fueled plan even worth it? I feel gutted, emasculated, utterly destroyed. All I want now is to make her feel a fraction of what I'm feeling. There's no coming back from this. Cheating isn't just a mistake. It's a series of deliberate actions, every single one of which could have been stopped before crossing the line. But she didn't stop. It's done. Now I'm stuck between two choices: confront her tonight or catch her in the act. Part of me wants to update and share how this unfolds, but honestly, I'm leaning toward never touching social media again. Moving forward, I think I'll only be with someone who shares my values and outlook on things like this. One last, gut-wrenching discovery. I found this special toy from that message. Keep in mind, we already have a chest full of adult devices, so this was no surprise to me at first. But there it was, neatly packed in her carry-on. A remote control vibrator. The kind you control with an app. It looks like it cost a fortune. I met with the lawyer 90 minutes later. She was surprisingly kind and compassionate, which I didn't expect. She told me her job was to fight for my future, but I had one job: to be completely honest with her and not make her work any harder than it needed to be. After the meeting, I stopped at Kinko's to print out the file. $534 for full color printing. I wanted the pictures to be crystal clear. Shout out to Chris at Kinko's, who didn't bat an eye when the nudes started coming out on the printer. He asked what it was about, so I gave him a brief rundown. He was stunned, but he shook my hand and said, "Sorry, man." When I got home, I crashed for 3 hours. I couldn't think straight anymore. Around 7:30 p.m., my soon-to-be ex-wife came home at her usual time. The lawyer had strongly advised against a dramatic Hollywood-style confrontation in a hotel bar. She explained it would only make me look unhinged and hurt my case. As much as I hated to admit it, she was right. This needs to be handled cleanly, without theatrics. She outlined 2 routes for the divorce: contested or non-contested. Either way, I'd have to formally notify my wife that I'd retained counsel, and we'd need to proceed through mediation or, if necessary, fight it out. When my wife got home, I finally faced her. I asked her directly if there was anything she wanted to talk about, anything that might be on her mind. She casually mentioned the election, then turned the question on me, asking what was bothering me. I wanted to break down right there, but I've cried myself dry by now. I decided to confront her. I asked why she had a remote control vibrator packed in her luggage. The moment those words left my mouth, her face told me everything I needed to know. She went pale, her breathing quickened, and beads of sweat formed on her forehead. Panic. Pure panic. Why would you have something like that? I pressed. Who has access to the app and the code? She stammered, and then the tears started. I stayed composed as I pulled out the 3 file folders of evidence. Text exchanges, pictures, everything. Holding them up, I asked, would the AP's wife have the code? Maybe she'd know. The floodgates opened. She cried and begged, saying she could explain. I told her she had 5 minutes to try. Of course, she couldn't. She had nothing to say that could make this right. So, I told her what my attorney advised me to. The marriage was over. I also told her to leave. She screamed that it was her house too, but I stayed calm. Maybe it is, I said, but I'll be notifying everyone. Friends, family, even the girls, about your affair and betrayal. Or, you can leave now and make other arrangements. You'll be at your work conference all week anyway. She froze, speechless. I pulled up Facebook and showed her the AP's wife's profile. Do you want to tell her, or should I? I asked. She fell apart, sobbing, pleading, and repeating how much she loved me. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she cried. Then came my favorite. You can't do this. Well, it looks like I just did, I said as I sent a message to the AP's wife, attaching the file of their escapades. I wrote a brief, apologetic explanation in the message before hitting send. I haven't heard back from her yet. Then, I turned to the stacks of paper and started flipping through, reading random excerpts aloud to my soon-to-be ex-wife. I just wish we could spend the day attached to each other. Just you inside of me. You feel so much more intense than any other woman I've ever been with. She sat there, sobbing uncontrollably, still begging to talk about us. She kept saying our marriage could survive her mistake. I told her in no uncertain terms that I would never forgive her. Her words mean nothing to me anymore. She threw away the last 17 years of our life together. Thank you to everyone who reached out. I can't express how much it means to have people who care enough to respond, even when I couldn't reply to all the messages. It's been a whirlwind, and honestly, I'm barely holding it together. I've scheduled a therapy appointment for Tuesday. I guess that's my first step toward finding some kind of footing in this chaos. Right now, I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into a storm that's been brewing for years without me realizing it. One moment, there's this surge of energy coursing through me, a strange mix of adrenaline and relief, as if exposing the truth has given me a spark of control. But then, it's gone, and I'm free-falling into this black hole of despair. The weight of it all is unbearable. I can't lie. There's a voice in the back of my mind whispering that it would be easier to just let go. The house feels cavernous now. It's so quiet that every sound, every sniffle and muffled sob from her in the other room, echoes like a ghost haunting me. She's still here, crying and moaning as if her tears could wash away the wreckage of what she's done. But the walls, once filled with laughter and love, now seem to press in on me, reminding me of everything we've lost. I've told her not to come back after her trip. There's nothing left to say, no way to rebuild what she's destroyed. I'm done. Yet, despite the finality of my decision, her presence lingers like a shadow, reminding me of the life I thought we had. I've started sending out friend requests, trying to gather everyone onto my page. It feels surreal, like preparing for some kind of digital trial where the truth will finally be laid bare. Once everyone is there, I'll send out the story, the whole story, and let the chips fall where they may. It's not about revenge anymore. It's about truth. People deserve to know what kind of person she really is. But the hardest part is still ahead. Tomorrow, I have to call the girls. I've been their dad since they were 11 and 6, raising them like my own. They're women now, 28 and 23. But in moments like this, All I can see are the little girls who used to run into my arms when they were scared. How do I break their hearts without shattering their faith in the love we once had? I can picture their faces already. The older one, always the steady, logical thinker, will ask questions, too many questions, and I'll have to answer them all. The younger one, so much more emotional, will cry, and her tears will cut into me like glass. How do I tell them that the woman they've called Mom for most of their lives has betrayed everything we built together? This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about the slow unraveling of trust, the collapse of a foundation that I thought was unshakable. I feel like a house standing alone in a hurricane, each gust of wind tearing away another piece of the life I spent years building. The walls are gone, the roof is caving in, and all I can do is brace myself for the final blow. But even as I stand in this storm, I know one thing. I will get through it. It won't be easy, and the scars will stay with me, but I'll rebuild. Not for her, not for anyone else, but for me.